Hi, my name, well, people know me by Mihu. I'm the alchemist for Mother Earth Alchemy, and I have a sort of a public service thing that I want to do, and I want to share with you some information from a seminar that I ran starting in 1986, and it's pertinent to right now. I hadn't shared it with a lot of people, just very close people, and I want to put it out there for my customers and my friends, and I'm hoping that it could make a difference. Okay. There are several things to consider with this. First, it's a video about earth changes, and I think certainly myself and nearly everybody that I know that does any sort of prophecy or remote viewing has found that you just can't nail the actual time that it's going to happen. And I mean, this is true of outside, like us, outsiders, and it's true of the insider Illuminati elite. They don't know. They don't know. They figure, from what I have heard, that the Earth changes were supposed to start in 2012 and be over by the end of 2019. That's what they said. It was a 7-year period. We have had intense stuff, and this video was the solution that I had to my own dreams and craziness and that sort of thing, that I began to really see what I could do to investigate it with other people, not just by myself. I was doing it for myself because I was crazy about it. I was always having dreams about it, and it was most of the reasons I was having dreams that were wacky and all that was because I wasn't in a place that was safe. As soon as I would get to a place where I felt safe and where it was like the dream suddenly changed and I could dream about, whatever, growing my tomatoes or something, But I originally made this Earth Changes seminar that I started to see for myself and to see for my friends and family, and later became my customer base. I'm the alchemist for Mother Earth. Earth Changes, what I feel like has something to do with the nibiru system, with the dwarf star, which is our binary star. It's a natural thing. 95% of all systems are binary, and we happen to live in one where the binary star, the second star, to us is a lot smaller, less mass, and there are dynamics in it that are hard to look at and predict. So this is a video about the changes that are relating, I think, to nibiru, and fairly shortly in the works. I shared on the results only with the closest people to me. I told them what I thought and mostly it wasn't something that I even shared with the people that I did the seminars with. I wanted them to draw their own conclusions, have their own ideas, and what it was over a 25-year period. Back in the 80s, and this was mid-80s, the first thing that happened, I was trained in remote viewing back in the 60s. 60s, late 60s and 70s, early 70s. And it's not the remote viewing that Ed Dames but it's similar to what Hal Puthoff put out. It's the remote viewing that came from the original, which was from Scientology. And I'm not a Scientologist, and so whatever you think, but the technique really works. And what happened was I was going to a psychic institute in the Bay Area in California, and as I kept getting glimpses of what I'd have to call catastrophic events as I went to the school. I mean, it would just come out of the blue. It would hit me, and I would go, whoa, whoa, whoa. And what I learned I went to Berkeley to the Psychic Institute there, and it was Berkeley Psychic Institute, and what I learned from the psychic school is that when you see something like that, you don't just discount it. You explore it, you look at it, you evaluate it, what it's all about. Is it something internal that you're generating? Is it something outside? Are you seeing something real? Is it a picture from somebody else? La 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 la. And I did learn how to not interfere with other people's mental process, their pictures and stuff like that. That was a good thing, because that's really an easy thing to do. You get a group of people together and you can make them see ducks for breakfast, So I really had no faith in what I was seeing. I wanted to have sort of a second opinion. So what I started doing is I did this seminar, and I advertised in local papers and in the psychic paper and stuff like that to teach people to do remote viewing, and I called it the 2020 Prophecy Seminar. And it was 2020 is kind of like a double entendre. It's not really about the real date, because nobody knows when the real date of Earth changes events are. When we didn't look at the Earth changes, we looked at the aftermath. We looked at what was done, how it was done. When it was all done, it's all over, it's all, it's finished. And, of course, 2020 is a double entendre for good vision and like that. And over the years now, I did this seminar in small groups, usually 5 or 6 people in a group, and typically I'd do one a month or about there. And over the years, I did just about 2,000 people came, and I got to see I got to hear from them what they saw when I taught them how to remote view and remote view the future. Now, in a separate video, I'm going to do one of these seminars so you can see how to do it yourself, how to look at what's there, what's coming. That's going to be something separate. Keep watch for it. And now when I did the seminar, what I found was the people who had the visions of the future, they didn't really go expansive. They didn't when you're looking at what's the future of something, you're looking at, what's my car going to be like in 20 years? It's not, you don't go, okay, you know, what's Europe going to look like? What are the European cars going to be like? So most of the information that I had that came out of these seminars is mostly about North America. And so I can share what that is. Now, in a separate video, we will look at Europe in a separate group. Maybe this is the video that I'll use to show people how to do it. Is we will go and look at Europe and see what's final, what's it look like after Earth changes in Europe. But right now, this one is the one that I've had a lot of information about. It was 2,000 people telling me, oh, I saw this, I saw that, and so you're probably, the first question probably is, what did they see? Besides what did the new geology look like? What did they see? What were their perceptions about what's going to change? So about half the people, this is in the beginning of the seminar, about half saw the jungle scenario, which is like paradise on Earth. Simple, small communities, no big cities, no high-tech anything. Plants and everything growing like absolute insanely cool. Paradise, that's what I'd call that. Then of the other half, now again, this is in the beginning, some people saw utopia, which would be high-tech, shiny buildings, floating UFOs, like that, this whole thing. Another slice saw an intervention by aliens. Now, and the intervention by aliens didn't especially contradict the paradise because it seemed like it was sort of in a different time frame. So that one could also be a reality, even if this one's reality. Some other people saw a reality that's kind of like the Mad Max scenario. Everything's gone to hell. And I don't believe in that one. It wasn't very many, but just have to say some people saw it. The other one, well, there's opening for anybody having some wacky idea of the future. And then the other wacky idea of the future was that Earth will not change. And what it seems to be in this time now is that if Earth doesn't change, Earth will not survive. So you can't have both things, at the same time. You can't have an Earth, a future that hasn't changed, and that scenario doesn't, can't exist with a future Earth for some reason. But so now, after about 10 years of giving this scenario, I realized how to engage each of our lower aspects, how to bring in the emotional body and have the emotional body give us feedback on what we are seeing. And at that time, it went almost phenomenally, squeezed all of these into a slice about this big. All of these became, many of which might be mental scenarios, some, mental constructs of the future, which that's a very possible thing for people to have a mental construct of what they want and not be able to actually see what's there. But with the emotional body engaged, it just went whoa, and about between 80 and 90%, a huge percentage, saw this Paradise Earth scenario as the whole thing. So that was, after 10 years, I figured that out. And when I give the information on how to do this in a separate video, I will not be excluding the lower emotional element at all, because it seems like it's so much more accurate. It's almost like your feelings give you an idea of like, ooh, that's not right, and then the picture just goes away if you're looking at something you imagined. Oh, I really want to have a castle. Oops, so that's not there. So, and that's our sort of our pie chart for. So I would say, let me show you, after 10 years and engaging the emotional body, it became more like this. All of these, this, that, all of these scenarios all fit into this one right there. That's like almost mind-blowingly amazing, and I'd say I was actually really blown away by how people saw it when they engaged their feeling body. I did these seminars in a bunch of different places, pretty much all over the country. I did them in California, in Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Montana, Georgia, Massachusetts, Southern Canada, Ontario, and British Columbia. I mean, that pretty much, and people pretty much saw what was, pertained to their reality. And now let's see. Now, the sequence, we mostly didn't look at the actual changes, because it's sort of difficult to look at. They're something that's super upsetting. You pretty much have to get there and get upset in order to go through that part of it. So we don't. I mean, the people had little glimpses of things. While I was going to the Psychic Institute, I kept having glimpses of monster tsunamis, and earthquakes and things like that. And I'm like, oh shoot, I really had to really get out of California, and one of the things that, now some of the things that we're seeing makes sense to me, and I'll go into kind of my high octane speculation about that and explain it after when I get to the West Coast. I'm going to start with pretty much what the new coastline looks like, and now when you know what high ground is, it doesn't especially mean survivability. It doesn't mean that, that if you are on high ground, maybe you have a better chance of surviving the flood part of it. But what about the shaking, and what about houses falling down, and what about big boulders rolling down the street and things like that? Isn't Isn't it? I mean, there's a lot more to catastrophic Earth changes than. My kitty just went by again. That's why I'm laughing. She's pulling her tail's pulling the chart out. Okay, let's see. So here's what people on the East Coast saw. They saw the East Coast pretty much. You can just sort of cut off up to the mountains along the East Coast, like that. So there's the coastline. Florida is gone, and now going up this side, the west side of the East Coast, up just slightly out of the mountains, it goes up to the Great Lakes, like that. Okay, that's a new coast. It's as if the east coast of the U.S. has become a peninsula, and the Gulf of Mexico starts somewhere here. It may be right here. It's either here or there, but it's right there, and it goes like this all the way up to the Gulf of Mexico. I mean to the Great Lakes. So this is all the new interior part of the U.S. The plains are they collapse along the big fault, the New Madrid Fault, pretty much, and the mountains somewhere. When you go to the Rocky Mountains, somewhere a couple hundred miles east of the Rocky Mountains is the new coastline, and just a little bit out from the mountains on the East Coast mountains is the new coastline with the Gulf of Mexico. This is the new Gulf. I'll put a big G. There's the Gulf. Now, the West Coast is the most interesting because it's also it has a bit of some people say, oh, that's not happening, but I mean, so many people saw this that I'm going to do my high octane speculation right now, sort of before drawing the new coast. And when you go here by Las Vegas, just outside of Las Vegas, I'm going to make a mark, and then just near Salt Lake, I'll make another mark, and then in Coeur d'Alene, I'll make another mark. And this is what brings me to the high octane speculation. What's unusual about those? There was a whistleblower a few years back that came out and said that there were submarine bases at those locations, that you could get to submarine bases and it just happens that those locations are right on the border of what people saw as a new coastline. Now, so here's a new coastline. Like that, goes down like that, which certainly doesn't follow the San Andreas. Everyone will go, oh, the San Andreas is going to be da-da-da-da, and it'll fall off. And it does look like it joins the San Andreas, and it joins the San Andreas back here when it goes out. Now I don't know about Victoria, that area. What I do know is that the Canadian shelf, which is right through here, this area here, is subject to like a massive upthrust. So I mean, when I kind of hear that, see it from a lot of people, I go, okay, so what's going on? And that's the same thing that I've been doing here is conjecture. Okay. But it's what's seen is one thing, and what it apparently this area in Western Canada is going up like kind of like a new Himalayas, you know. A little bit like the St. Elias range on the coast up here. Those are massively high mountains, and these mountains down here aren't that high, but people saw them going up crazy. And this whole thing where the submarine bases, my conjecture is that this part of the plate is like this, that there's actually water that the plate goes out over, and that if it quakes a lot, boom, that plate could collapse. You know, it's not what I know, it's conjecture. But the real high places in the West, of course, are above water still. There's like islands and that sort of thing. So, you know, the mountain ranges are islands and so on. I would say that an above water zone would be anything maybe over 4,000 feet would be above water, 3,500 to 4,000 feet. I wouldn't want to be there when it's changing because tsunamis tend to go up across even huge mountain ranges. The area of Oregon, around Oregon, is an area that seems to be high ground, high volcanic ground. So that's an interesting thing. Volcanoville is what I'd call it, and I think I just drew it a little bigger than you can count on it. It goes from about a little south of the California border to a little south of the border of Washington and Oregon. So I drew it a little too big. But that whole thing is, I think that it's like pressure building, so it actually stays up, even though the plate may be dropping. That part of the geology is above water still. And there are other places, there's mountain ranges in here that are above water. In the end, this map doesn't show the mountain ranges, so, but the mountain ranges certainly aren't underwater. And some of these places, like in southern Arizona and like that, have like inroads of water into them, like that. Lowland is low. And okay, and I do believe that the passing of Nibiru is what upsets it all. We will be doing another video, and we'll be looking at Europe. One of the things that I do know is that there's a shift in the poles, and the new North Pole is somewhere down here in Russia, in the cold climate of Russia becomes the coldest climate. It looks like there's a bunch of movement of plates that the Pacific plate, which rotates like this way usually, not only rotates but winds up being, usually that is, our concept is that the San Andreas is the edge of the plate, and then everything over here is being this Pacific plate is subducted under this plate here, but it looks like that's doesn't work that way when it comes to this Earth changes event. It does look like this plate, which is the Canadian shelf, moves down about there to about where the U.S.-Mexico border is. So that's a lot of change. I mean, you can imagine a 9 earthquake would seem like nothing if Canada's going to move all the way down to there. Now this stuff here, of course, all moves down and much closer to the equator, and it all twists. Of course, this going this way would twist this, so this going that way and that going that way would twist this whole thing like that down. And that may be part of what's going on to make this happen this way. To me, it doesn't feel like this is happening this week. It also, I've got other videos that will address and have addressed how you heal yourself enough to... Okay, this is a rough representation of the high ground. Now, there are other maps around, and you have to go with your own sense of it, your own intuitive sense. And mostly the mountains like the Smoky Mountains and the Appalachians, those mountains are nice and high ground. And I think this is the Ozarks. There's mountains right in here. There's water that's beyond it. The water always all the way comes up to the Great Lakes, comes like this. Over here in the west, the water goes up to the range that's along the right next to Salt Lake City, and there are ranges in here in California and Nevada and through Utah that go up and they're above water too. And then of course there's the Canadian shelf. It's high. It's like super high. And I don't know about Mexico. Never did anything there, so I don't know. And now I wouldn't take my idea of it as the ultimate, because it can change. All of this reality stuff has a flexible nature to it. But where there's a lot of people and a lot of kind of like yuckiness, maybe, I don't know what you'd call it, where those kind of places, they don't have much of a good chance of surviving, because the earth has to purge that kind of stuff. So it's more natural surrounding things that will survive. And the thing is, it's most likely that after the earth changes, maybe some decades later, this water will, recede, and the earth will go back to being a larger expanse of land. But, and the New Madrid is, I think the New Madrid comes in and is about here. And it is a major trouble spot. And that's about it.